Hey everybody, it's Paul.
And Steve.
And we are back to discuss it all. Now, we have a great topic today, but before we get into that, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And if you enjoy the content that we produce on this channel, please make sure to leave it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And if you have friends that you think would like to see this content, please hit the share button. All three of those things really help the channel out. Lets the YouTube algorithm know that you like what we're doing and helps us to be seen by others. So we really appreciate that. Also, we are going to be doing a question and answer video coming up pretty soon. Please leave comments down below, questions you would like us to answer for that video.
That's going to be a great video as soon as we get to 500 subscribers,
yes,
which is right around the corner.
That's right. That's
right. We'll do that. So today's topic is an exciting topic. You know that Paul and I love music, and so we're going to talk about music. Again, our favorite bands or musical artists from 1980 to 1982.
Yep. So this is going to be the early 80s.
Early 80s. So favorite musical artist of the early 80s.
Yep. Now we will be doing the mid 80s and the late 80s as well to kind of round out this series, but those will be in the weeks to come.
That's right.
So I'm excited about this one.
It's going to be a great one, and in a lot of ways it was difficult to narrow it down.
It really was. So we came up with some criteria for that separately, but then we chatted about it together. We had it. So these are going to be people that we liked during this time frame.
Right.
During the 1980 to 82, we were listening to these people. It's not like we discovered them later and went back.
Right. Or that it wasn't a musical artist that we really liked their music from the mid-80s, and so we're just projecting back.
Right.
These are the artists that during 80 to 82 we were listening to, and the music that we really love about them is from that 80 to 82 period.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay.
Well, why don't you start? I'd love to hear what your favorite, the first favorite musical artist, musical act from the early 80s is.
Okay, and as always, these are in no particular order. So my first one is going to be a tremendous recording artist. It's going to be Billy Joel.
Right.
Billy Joel. So he had, Still Rock and Roll to Me. He had another big hit. I can't remember what it was now. Still Rock and Roll to Me. My mind is going blank. It was before An Innocent Man came out, and that really was an album that I liked as well. But I really kind of discovered Billy Joel around this time, and he was just really good. He was also somebody that my parents both liked. Yeah. So whenever we were in the car, that was kind of on. And a lot of my list is going to be more pop,
right?
Because I didn't get into rock until a little bit later.
Okay.
So Billy Joel is going to start my list off.
Yeah, no, and great choices. Fabulous artist in so many ways, and like you, a lot of the my musical influence came from my parents, and my dad in particular. He loved music. I remember we had a big reel-to-reel, that he had built a cabinet for, and we would just listen to music. He would buy the album, and then he would record it reel to reel. So you had all the sounds of the analog, on the turntable, and then he would never play the record again. It was always reel to reel. So I learned a lot of music from my dad. He liked music, and so that became a big influence on my life. And I was between 80 and 82. This was like 5th, 6th, 7th grade for me. So you're just really hearing music on the radio that you're learning to love. So my first choice is going to be one of my favorite bands of all times, but certainly 80 to 82 when I really came to discover them and enjoy them, is Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah,
loved Fleetwood Mac. During that time, 80 to 82, you had both Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks release solo albums. Yeah. But you still had Fleetwood Mac releasing in 80 in particular. So 80 to 82, Fleetwood Mac, love the sound, the diversity of sound that, on the same album, you're getting a variety of different lead vocalists, you're getting a variety of different sounds, and so just love the music of Fleetwood Mac, and thank my dad for introducing me to Fleetwood Mac. So.
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac is a tremendous band, and you mentioned the vocal abilities of both Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were just really good.
Yeah.
So they deserve to be on any list, certainly from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
All right, so great pick. All right, my next one is probably probably going to be the most rock oriented. Got a chance to see these people in concert back when we were still doing concerts.
Yeah, that's right, when we had them.
Hopefully again. And that's going to be REO Speedwagon.
Oh, yes.
So I really liked Keep On Loving You, Take It On The Run. Those were just phenomenal songs. Just, they kind of introduced me to that arena rock sound that we know now, where it's like just that booming chorus.
That's it.
And kind of that verse that builds up to that release of the chorus. Just great songs. Love those songs today. Loved them then. Just a lot of fun.
That's it. And it just songs you could really rock to.
Yeah. And again, songs that the parents liked, didn't turn the parents off.
No, that's right.
Of course, I wasn't really getting into that kind of music at that point, but just great music. So REO Speedwagon is going to be my number 2.
Love REO Speedwagon. Loved them then, love them now.
I do too.
All right, so my number 2 group is, in some ways, it's a lot like Fleetwood Mac for me, both because I was really introduced to the band by my parents, but also they have a great diversity of sound and musical ability, and that is Chicago.
Yep.
That may be my favorite group of all time, but certainly from 80 to 82, I can remember vividly during that time just sitting in the living room listening over and over again to great Chicago songs. And even though that probably wasn't the highlight of Chicago's musical presentation, there was still great music in that period of time in the early 80s.
Well, Chicago's neat because they've gone through several iterations of their music. Clearly, I think, what is it, Chicago 17, is that the album name?
Yeah, that's right.
Where like they're just biggest songs. If you go to a Chicago
You're the
concert,
inspiration, and
they don't play those songs. You're ready to
that's
turn
right.
the place down.
That's right. Yeah.
But those are much more keyboard oriented as opposed to getting away from the horn sound. But yeah, Chicago is just one of those bands that like you said, like Fleetwood Mac has kind of reinvented itself over time, and just great music.
Yeah, and in that 80 to 82 period of time, you're getting more sort of the rock sound and some of those classic and iconic songs that you remember, and then you get later in the 80s to Chicago 17, for example, and some rich music. So, good.
Yeah. Great pick. Okay. So my third pick is going to be another act that I love. It's a duet. It's going to be Hall & Oates.
Oh, yeah.
So I just love the sound of them coming through the radio at that time. Man Eater, Private Eye is still one of my favorite songs.
Absolutely, to this day.
Yeah.
To this day.
And I've actually discovered a lot more Hall & Oates music, as I've gotten older. But it's all kind of from that time period. And I really enjoyed it then, really enjoyed it now. Again, for me, it's funny because all these bands I'm talking about kind of have like that same sound.
Yeah, sure.
They're not too fast, but they're not slow either.
No, that's right.
Billy Joel's probably more on the slower side.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, just to this day, a great act.
Oh, no doubt. Songs that you can sing when you're by yourself, or when I'm by myself, I can sing. But songs that you can sing that you can just enjoy in any environment. Driving in the car, sitting in a park, sitting at home, you can still listen to their music, and it's real music. It's real live music. Love Hall & Oates.
Yeah,
that's a great pick.
Thank you.
All right, so my third pick is going to be somewhat similar because it's a musical act that I not only remember listening to at the time and really being kind of in love with, but also later hearing even some of their or his earlier music and later music as well. And I can remember, tell you a story. I remember going on a camping trip with some friends, and we went to the lake to go camping with their family, and there was a giant speaker that was set up, and they were playing this particular artist, and that's the Steve Miller Band.
Ooh, yeah.
So 80 to 82, again, a formative period, and just the music that the Steve Miller Band produced during that period of time was just iconic for him, and really meant a lot to me. I mean, I've loved Abracadabra, of course. I mean, who doesn't love Abracadabra?
It'll reach out and grab you.
It will reach out and grab you, and that's just for me. When I think of just good rock and roll music, the Steve Miller Band comes to mind.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And actually, I talked in a previous video about getting like that album of various artists. Abracadabra was one of the songs on it, and that introduced me to the Steve Miller Band right around the same time we're talking about. And so once I heard that, then I kind of realized who they were, and that's a great pick. Now was Jungle Love in that same time period?
It was a little earlier.
Okay, that's another great song.
Another great song, fabulous, wonderful song.
Okay, so Steve Miller Band. All right, next one for me. Now, these people had a really neat sound, and of course, MTV played a big part of their success, I think. And that's me, Men at Work.
Oh yeah, very good.
I really like them. Now, I didn't at the time. I really liked Down Under, but my favorite songs were Overkill, Who Can It Be Now? I don't know what it was about, but it just had a different sound. REO Speedwagon, Billy Joel, Steve Miller Band, they all kind of have, I'm going to call it an American sound.
That's right.
Men at Work had just a much different sound.
Sure did.
Probably because they were Australian.
They were from down under.
Still have never had a Vegemite sandwich.
Never, not going to.
Not going to. I've heard stories. So Men at Work is going to be one of my picks. And again, if any of those songs come on the radio, maybe except for Down Under, I'm listening to that song.
Is that right? So not Down Under, not going to listen to it. Just heard it too much.
I think that's what it is. I think I just heard that song too much. I like I don't even know what instrument. I don't know if it's a flute or what. I like the little riff that they got going on. But I mean, it's a didgeridoo.
I don't know. If you know what that album is or what that instrument is, let us know.
I like the music, but the lyrics, it just doesn't grab me. But I love like just the haunting, melody and lyrics of like Overkill. Who Can It Be Now? I just think those are so
that album. If I recall, I haven't looked at all of the other songs on that album in a while, but if I recall, it was one of the albums you could listen to. You could listen to the tape all the way, the cassette tape all the way through on both sides. And so I can't remember a lot of the other lesser known, the songs that didn't come out on singles, but I don't remember that being an album that you would want to skip through songs, some really, really good songs.
And that was one of the neat things about the early and mid 80s is artists had to produce a complete album. Because that's what they were selling you.
Absolutely.
You weren't able to buy a single, except for a few here and there. But generally speaking, it was if you liked what you heard on the radio, you had to go to the record store and buy an album, which was at least $10.
Exactly.
$8 to $10.
Unless you got the Columbia, where you got 15 albums for a penny, and I think I'm still paying for some of those albums to be sent my way.
I know. Crazy. We all fell into that. I fell into it multiple times, but and I was happy when I got my initial box of stuff, and then of course I always forgot to.
Cancel.
It just turned into something.
Paying forever.
So Men at Work's going to be my fourth pick.
Great one. Great musical artist. So my fourth pick is going to be, and this is another one of those bands that really hit it big in the early '80s and got even bigger as the '80s went on. But I just remember in that '80 to '82 at the skating rink and at friends' houses and all listening to Journey. So just that period of time with Journey was just remarkable. Great songs. Loved them at the time. Loved them now. Loved them later. But really influential. And that big sound. And a lot of these groups that we've been talking about, Paul, and I didn't think about it until we started mentioning these together, is that they really do have a big sound to them. And they produce almost this soul jarring music, not the body jarring where it's just loud rock and roll, the hair bands of the late 80s or whatever, but it's really big music that you can listen to and enjoy and get into and be influenced by. So
and to me that's one of the great pleasures in life is being in a large group of people, because everybody knows all the words. Like if you go to a Journey show, everybody knows the words and they are singing along. And it's just. It will move you emotionally and literally.
Absolutely.
Just that power of the music and the people singing it back to the band.
That's right. And seen them in concert several times. A few years ago, saw them again with the new singer. That sounds exactly like Steve Perry, but Anyway, great band for me.
Now that's interesting. So Journey is actually going to be on my list, but in the mid '80s.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So a little bit of a spoiler alert there.
Yeah.
Because I actually got into Journey with Separate Ways.
Oh, sure.
Which came out just a little bit later. Now, of
Yeah,
course, I've
that's
gone
right.
back, and Journey from this time period was actually the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Because Escape was a tremendous album, and one of my
Without a doubt.
favorite songs on Escape is "Stone in Love," which is one of those songs that didn't get released as a single.
Did not. No, you rarely ever hear that.
But what's funny is when you start talking about going to the lake and that speed, I thought you were going to talk about Journey and Stone in Love,
Yeah.
because that's how Steve Perry wrote that song.
Is that right?
He wrote that about going to the lake and seeing a girl and that young love.
Yeah.
So anyway,
How about that?
Yeah.
Great.
So okay. So that's going to bring me to my final pick. Journey's is such a good pick. Oh, I've got a few. Let's see. I'm gonna go with Rick Springfield.
Oh yes, good choice.
So yeah, so I started off thinking I only had one non-band, but I actually had two. I had Billy Joel and I got Rick Springfield.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like that classic double threat. He acted. He was on a soap opera, I think.
Yeah, like General Hospital or something.
And then ended up having a movie with Hard to Hold, which was kind of forgettable.
Yeah, it was. It was. The music was good.
The
movie
music was great.
Yeah.
So he's another one that to this day, when his songs come on the radio, I've got them turned on.
Yeah,
I'm singing along.
no doubt.
I love Jesse's Girl. I love Somebody. There's Don't Talk to Strangers.
That's right.
There's just all this great music that he
Yeah.
did. And really, he was an artist that did really well in that time frame.
Yeah.
And then just wasn't able to transition
Wasn't able to make it happen.
into the mid and late 80s. I think just the sensibilities kind of moved along.
That's right. Well, I saw him in concert in 1984, September of 1984, and that was kind of the waning years of Rick Springfield. All of the good music of the early 80s, he just couldn't translate into everything that was going on in the mid 80s. So
Yeah.
but that's a great pick, and that was a great time for Rick Springfield, those early years. And so, all right, so I struggled with my last one because there are several bands and artists that I really enjoyed during that period of time, and so I'm going to skip over a band that will probably show up at some other times as well. That was probably the bigger band, but in some ways is not the band that at the time I listened to as much as the other, though now I would. So that band, a spoiler alert, would have been Foreigner.
Okay.
Loved Foreigner in the early 80s. But the band that probably I listened to more than Foreigner in the early 80s was AC/DC.
Really? Okay.
So at that period of time, 80 to 82, every year, 1980, 1981, and 1982, AC/DC released albums, and I just listened to them with friends of mine, probably more. Their cassette tape was probably in the jam box more than Foreigner was. Even though now I'd rather listen to Foreigner. Saw them in concert a couple of years ago. But at the time, if I'm ranking them, which one did I listen to more, it would have been AC/DC.
Okay.
And still to this day, though, love AC/DC music. I love the sound. I love the songs. I love rock and roll. And that was a period of time, 80 to 82. You had the Rolling Stones. You had some other kind of big rock bands. And Foreigner would fit in the rock band category, but AC/DC was probably the biggest for me during that period.
Okay.
Probably shouldn't have been listening to them.
No. I mean that's when Back in Black came out.
100%.
Was it 81?
81.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, huge album. I forget how many millions of copies it sold. It's one of the Diamond Platinum starting albums. And that's a great album. I did not discover AC/DC until a little bit later because I was listening to the pop music station. Of course, none of their
weren't
songs
playing that. No.
was playing on there. But yeah, phenomenal music. It's just I didn't discover them, so they didn't make my list.
That's right.
I struggle with this list as well because there's a couple of people I've got on my list over here that we didn't even talk about, like Toto.
That's right.
The Go-Go's would have been a
Rush.
period. Rush, Survivor.
Yeah.
There was a bunch.
Yeah, all of which had good music in the early 80s.
Yeah, and it's funny how we've said a couple times the music, like the sound, almost kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Like the stuff from this period in the 80s did not really make it later on because like Men at Work, they just kind of faded off.
That's right.
A lot of these bands did.
Yeah, they sure did. Replaced with a different sound, and And those bands that were able to evolve, like Journey, like Foreigner, like Prince. We didn't even talk about Prince.
Right.
I mean, Prince had some great stuff, but
yeah, I'm
really,
sure he's going to be in the mid-'80s.
absolutely. Spoiler alert,
yeah.
right? Michael Jackson.
Right.
I mean, others who they really found their groove in the mid-'80s.
Yep.
Because they were able to make the adjustment, and some of these other groups couldn't.
That's right.
But yeah, it's great. I really enjoyed hearing what some of your favorite bands were.
And me too, because you're just a little bit ahead of me
Right.
as far as you're just a couple years older. So kind of like you're my big brother.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, what my big brother listening to? And it's funny because a lot of the music that you did, I'm like, okay, well those would have been on my mid-'80s list.
Yeah, sure, that's right.
Just because I just discovered them just a couple of years.
Well,
later.
yeah, and you would have been the age I was in 80 to 82.
Exactly.
You would have been in 84 to 86, or roughly. So
Right, and I wasn't spending quite as much time around my parents,
Right.
and I was now transitioning to the rock stations
Yeah.
as opposed to like the top
Yeah.
40 and pop stations.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
So
kind
it's
of
interesting to hear. So we'd love to hear what your songs are, or your groups rather. Who are your favorite musical artists from the early 80s? Maybe there's some that either we didn't mention or we've forgotten about, or maybe we didn't know about. And so what were your favorite musical artists of the early 80s? Love to hear those down in the comments.
Yeah. So you can pick. Were you like a good boy like me, listening to pop music,
That's right.
or a Hellraiser?
That's exactly right. Somebody's got to do it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So but you may have also been a country music fan. I mean, country western. We could have talked about all sorts of country western songs.
Country
in the
had
early
a
80s.
lot of chart singles
Absolutely.
in the 80s.
Well, in fact, Alabama crossed over in the 80s or the early 80s, and made it on the rock charts or the pop charts.
Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers had
Yeah.
several.
Yeah.
Whoever did I Love a Rainy Night.
That's right, Eddie. I almost said Eddie Money, but it's not. But
Eddie
Rabbit. Eddie Rabbit.
Eddie Haskell.
Yeah, that's right. Eddie Rabbit. Yeah,
Eddie Rabbit.
that's right. Oh, it was good. I mean, that was a great song.
Yeah.
That was a great song. So.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our list, and before we go down another rabbit hole, we're going to end the video. But we want to thank you guys so much for joining us today. Please leave those comments down below.
Yeah.
Let us know what we got right and what we missed, or what your favorites were, or what you'd like to see in a future video. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.